Hey, I'm Chris Cuomo. Thank you for the company. I hope you enjoyed the celebration of America's independence, and I hope you give a nod to the fact that the rule for us, though, has to be interdependence. We have to care about one another. You got to look at it through that lens no matter what's going on, and I know it's not easy. So let's take a look and tackle the big problem, okay? I don't have an answer for you about what's going to happen with Biden. I'll tell you this much. What you're seeing in the media is greatly hyped and exaggerated and well ahead of the actual process. I trust my reporting over the headlines 10 times out of 10. Does that mean it's not going to happen? No, it means we don't know. The question for me is, will the obstacle be the way for the Democrats? Meaning, will they take this period of challenge? And it is absolutely that. Biden's perceived diminishment is at an all-time urgency. Will they use it to shore up his candidacy or to move up? Point one, if you don't seem to care about this Biden drama, that's okay. You're not alone. It hasn't really penetrated the electorate yet. This is still just for the insiders and the opportunists on the left and the right. But, what I just said changes by the middle or end of this week, beginning of next week, the latest. Why? Polling. It's going on like crazy right now. Everybody with money and interest is polling. What are they asking? Is Biden down more? Are people leaving Biden because they see him as infirm over the long haul? The spread between him and Trump is not enough. Is the spread a function of people leaving Biden? Next issue. Kamala Harris. My reporting confirms that her people, to the extent she has an operation, that they are definitely angling for the top spot. I believe that this is a huge concern for the Democrats. I do not know that Kamala Harris is an improvement from Biden. We need to know the latest polling about Harris, how people feel about her versus Biden, her versus Trump, her versus other named Democrats. You need the data. Yes, it's just polling. Yes, it's a snapshot of a moment in time, but we are at that moment. When the numbers come, this drama is either going to become full on or it will subside. So we're going to know soon how deep this is going to get. Next point. The media did not start this fire, but they are absolutely fanning the flames. Why? That's the job. This is real, so that's what they do, okay? That's what I'm doing. That's what we do, all right? Now, is any of the urgency worry that Biden can't beat Trump? Yeah, I do think that's some of them. I do think there are members of the media who believe Trump is a danger to the democracy and that a weak Biden is better than a poison Trump. Now, is any of it just riding a narrative to the extreme? Yes, and I am not doing that. I don't believe most of the banners I see on cable TV. Proof. Have you noticed how the media is counting Democrats? Oh, now they're 4. Oh, now they're 5. Oh, now they're 6. And falsely qualifying the number and nature of them as being against Biden? The big 4 Democrats. I never heard of 3 of them. You know what I mean? These are the top ones. Oh, who are they? I mean, seriously. Nadler, okay. Seth Moya, okay. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Okay. So what does that mean? That's exaggerated. That's hyping. Well, for instance, you don't think the media or even you could find a dozen or more GOPers who want someone other than Trump? Of course you would. Of course. So see the game. All right? That's hyping it. That's to make it a story. That's to make it more real. The truth is enough. Banners on the bottom saying Biden rejects calls to suspend campaign. From who? Who's making those calls? Twitter? It's not coming from the head of the party. It's not coming from the Senate leader. It's not coming from the House leader. It's not coming from his top donors. So where's it coming from? It may happen, but it's not happening now. You remember when Trump said to grab him by the beep line and headlines rang out that he had to go? Remember how hot it got? He's stuck. He put out the only apology we've ever seen him put out. And it worked fine, right? Why? Moments pass. Momentum is something different. Moments, that's what he had with the video. Pass. Momentum is different. What's the difference? If the women had come out then in a way that was believable by the base, if big Democrats start coming out now with data and money people, now you got a problem for Biden. Moments pass, momentum is different. We're going to find out soon which one of this is that we are in. Point 3, if there becomes anything like a consensus to replace Biden, how? This is an open question. Ideas are coming. One of the best I've heard is from James Carville, and he's on right after me to explain. So that's great, and it's worth you hearing it. Because it really becomes, I guess, about the convention. And the last time the Democrats had to figure it out late in the game that way was in 1968, and it was a mess. Then President Lyndon Johnson bailed because of Vietnam and maybe his health, but he wasn't doing well. The convention had a riot outside and inside. They picked the VP who was weak, Humphrey, and got rolled by Nixon. Question, is Harris a Humphrey? We'll see when we get more polling. They'll get the first suggestion, okay? Point 4, the real issue isn't whether Biden is okay right now. People are framing it that way. Well, you saw him at the debate. That's who he is, okay? Yeah, he can't do the job. Well, clearly, the job is getting done, right? The affairs of state are ongoing. This is about the future, the rate of diminishment. There seems to be a rate of diminishment that is more than expected, more than people are okay with. You look at him from when he started office to the Medicare brain freeze moment at the debate, he seems much less. We hear reports that a Parkinson's specialist went to the White House multiple times. The numbers are all over the place. I don't care what the number is. It happened reportedly. They're not denying it. And it was multiple times. Biden won't take a cognitive test. And his press people, now, the best thing that Biden has going for him against Trump is team versus team. And I'll explain more in a second. But that is not an absolute advantage for Biden, because this is the way his press secretary handled the Parkinson's question today.
It's a very basic, direct question.
Wait. Hold on. Wait a second.
Eight times, or at least once, in regards to the president specifically.
Hold on a second.
Not what you should be able to answer by this point.
Wait, no. No, wait a minute.
We certainly could clear this all up just by saying what he was doing here and if it was connected to the president, yes or no.
I am not going to confirm a particular neurologist, anybody. It doesn't matter if they're a dermatologist or a neurologist. I'm just not going to do that. I shared with all of you that the president has been with the neurologist 3 times as it relates to his physical, 3 times.
Remember how the Romans used to do that? That answer stinks, okay? Again, it's not about KJP, Karine Jean-Pierre, okay? It's not about me knowing, not knowing, liking, not liking, not getting the job done. If Biden is going to depend on his team, you need someone better in that position. If he's not going to take on the questions, if he's not going to make the case, you need somebody else. I'm not going to confirm or deny. That means this is a problem for us. Okay? Wait. You know what that is? No control. Why no control? No respect. Why no respect? No candor. Why no candor? No competence. Okay? If he wants to depend on his team, you need better. It is not a personal attack at KJP. Don't cheapen the criticism. You need different skills, different take. A muscularity, male or female, is irrelevant to address the American people if you're going to be doing it basically as a proxy for the president. That won't cut it. We lived this with Reagan. He was like Biden. Maybe not as bad, actually, in his first debate against Mondale. After it, there were calls for his replacement. Then he was better in the second debate against Mondale. Had this famous line about saying, I'm not going to hold my opponent's young age against him as if wisdom was what had come with his own and not the diminished capacity that he had. And it worked, and he whooped Mondale. The only state Mondale won was Minnesota, his home state. But then it wound up being a nightmare because the same question that we're concerned about with Biden right now was the same one with Reagan, and they gave us a false answer, which is, hey, I'm going to be fine. He was not fine. He was not in control for years of his second term, which made the team so vital. This is the risk with Biden. Will voters go for a failing old man who continues to decline in all likelihood, or instead of a bad man in Trump who likely gets worse? And the team again. This should not be discounted, okay? I'm not saying you can vote for Biden because it doesn't matter as long as the team is okay. You don't even know who the team is. And the team that you do get to see is not wowing us. But with Trump, team matters also because he certainly doesn't know what he's doing. We saw it the last time. And he may have even worse staff this time than the last time, when he said he was going to drain the swamp and he wound up adding more alligators to it with a staff that had more exits for worse reasons than we've ever seen. Who's going to work for him this time? You notice they haven't even said, oh, look who's going to be with me this time? No one. He can't even get good lawyers barely anymore. The questions for us this week. Can Biden beat Trump? What does the polling say? Is that judgment affected by his perceived diminishment? If voters are changing because of Biden's perceived diminishment, how much? That's the most important question to evince in a poll. Then, the practicalities. If Biden won't leave, then what? And once you figure out the how, who? Got to see Harris on her own, Harris versus Trump, Harris versus the other big-name Democrats. Will the obstacle become the way? Can the Democrats make this convention the catalyst for a real change agent to show you real democracy in process, really letting the best person come forward, letting it be a battle of ideas? Can that happen? Yes. Will that happen? I don't know. But time isn't the problem. There's so much media now. Word will spread in hours with what used to take days. By the end of a week and a half, 2 weeks, everybody's going to know who this man or this woman is, or both, a man and a woman, whatever the ticket is, there's more than you ever wanted to know. Money, not an issue. With the dark money rules, you can just pour it in. The legal money is worse than any illegal money ever was. So will they use this moment or get abused by it? Trump is doing something we rarely see. He's keeping quiet. Why? Because he believes the Democrats will do the work for him. Will they? Let's bring in somebody who's got a much better understanding of the inside track and has a plan to get to a better place. Democratic strategist James Carville published a piece in the Times today called "Biden Won't Win. Democrats Need a Plan. Here's One." James, thank you very much. First, do I remember correctly you saying like a month or so ago, hey, he's earned a second term, I'm okay with Biden? Have you had a change, and if so, why?
Well, I said over 18 months ago, I didn't think he should run for re-election, but if he did run and he was against Trump, I would be for him. I think I've been staggeringly consistent in all of this. And if it were, and he's not, but if he were the nominee, of course, against Trump, I would be for him. I mean, but it's not going to happen. It's just, it's not an insider game, Chris. 50 million people saw that so-called debate. I mean, it's everybody knows what's going on here. We've all been through it. We've seen our parents go through it, our grandparents, our aunts and uncles and neighbors and relatives. This is all a matter of time here. And the question is, how do we move forward in the short time frame that we have here? That's the only thing I'm interested in.
But you know what people are saying to you. They're saying to you what I hear. No. James, anything is better than Trump. I'll take a Biden on life support. You can't mess with it now. There's not enough time, and we don't have anybody we know can beat Trump except Biden.
Oh, first of all, there's 7 people in the Democratic Party who would have a substantially better chance to beat Trump than President Biden. That's just demonstratively, I'm sorry, it's just not true. And once we start fearing the future, then we're dead as a political party. You can't operate on fear. You know, Franklin Roosevelt said the leader needs to be a dealer in hope. Bill Clinton said a man from hope. Obama had a poster, hope. Jesse Jackson, keep hope alive. Martin Luther King, I have a dream. When you stop hope and you stop dreaming, you stop in your tracks. And everybody.
So how do you get him out? How do you get him out if he's saying I won't drop?
You know, he's going to come to the conclusion that this is just not a good idea. And he's going to resist it, and he's going to listen to his family. He's already, it's all the same. We blame the staff, then we blame the media, then it's the elites in the Democratic Party. Do I look elite? What the hell's elite about growing up in rural South Louisiana and going to LSU? And this is all across the country, and I understand it's all predictable, and he's got to go through this, and he'll get there sooner as opposed to later.
Sooner opposed to later. Where's your confidence come from?
Chris, I don't predict things. I'm just telling you it's inevitable. He will come to the conclusion. People will get the message to him. He will understand. His family will understand. They'll pray on it, and they'll make the right decision. I don't have any doubt about it, but while we dilly-dallying around here, somebody's got to think of where we go from here. And that's what I'm trying to say in the time.
Listen, I think you're right. I think your party went down the wrong road, and they went a long way down it, and now they got to figure out a new course. Do you think Clinton and Obama would agree with your idea in the New York Times today for them to drive a town hall,
I have no idea.
A series of town halls?
Better to ask forgiveness and permission. I just throw an idea out there. All right, didn't everybody need? I'm just trying to stimulate what we're doing right now, to have a conversation about the future, and a future without a criminal president and a criminal Supreme Court. We have a criminal Supreme Court now. We had a criminal president. We might have one back. I want to stop that. If the best I can.
Just for the people at home, James wrote a piece today, you can read it in the Times, where he says Obama and Clinton hold a series of town halls, and they pick who gets to participate and vet the ideas in the different regions of the country, so that by the time you're into the convention, everybody's seen everybody, and you can have a good vetting process and come out with a new ticket. If you had to pick a ticket today, James Carville, who is it?
It's not up to me to pick a ticket. It's up for the Democratic delegates. I'm being frank here, but that's not the question. The question is, we're up against the wall. The Democratic Party is, the United States of America is up against the wall, and I know we got to do something different. That's the only thing I can say.
Carville. Was that some type of insider manipulation? No. James Carville, you should read his op-ed. This is one of the best minds in the party to this moment. And if he's saying they need change, it's going to echo. James Carville, thank you very much. I don't know where you are. I don't want to know, but I appreciate you coming to us.
Alaska. Thank you.
Alaska.
Beautiful Alaska.
Boy, you're running away, huh? Don't run away. Come back, James. Come back. Come back. Don't run away. Don't run away.
Call me. Thank you. Good luck to you.
Thank you, James. See how nervous they are? Carville's already in Alaska. 4 minutes and 5 seconds. Look, I'm telling you, it's good to have adversity. It's good to have challenge. It's going to make you push yourself and either justify the ticket as it is or find a way to something better. This evening, the president scheduled an emergency call with members of the Congressional Black Caucus. Remember, black voters made Biden president. A Democrat who was on that call, of course, joins us to tell us what happened and how it went. We're going to hear from her, and then we're going to debate the status quo. Former presidential candidate Andrew Yang has a prediction about Biden, and Geraldo Rivera is stroking his luxurious mustache to weigh in. All right, so let's go from the hype to the actual happenings. President Biden scheduled an emergency call with members of the Congressional Black Caucus to hold their support, to assure them, to ask questions, maybe? Let's find out. Someone who was on that call, Congressional Black Caucus member, Democratic Congresswoman Jennifer McClellan. It's good to see you, Representative. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
So instead of me characterizing what the call was, how would you characterize why this call happened?
Well, first of all, the call is still going on, and it was for the president to come on and thank members of the Black Caucus for our consistent support, helping him get elected in 2020, our consistent support now. There was a lot of very strong support that continues for the president, not only among the CBC members, but in our communities and among Black voters, Black grassroots activists, and leadership. And many of us on the call expressed that, what we are hearing in our districts, and that the Black community remains with President Biden and Vice President Harris.
Anybody make the case for Vice President Harris to take over the ticket?
Chris, I'm not going to get into who said what on a off-the-record call, but it was overall the Black Caucus listening to the president talk about his agenda for the Black community to finish the job of addressing over 300 years of the legacy of slavery and Jim Crow, and to reiterate the progress we've made together and what still needs to be done. And we're looking forward to doing that.
When you were home over the 4th of July, I'm sure people were curious about this. What were you telling them about what you think happens with the president?
Well, I was mostly listening, honestly, and what I heard were people who were extremely concerned about what the Supreme Court did in the last 2 days of its term, what it has done since the fall of Roe, that they have overturned over 40 years of precedent on reproductive freedom, on affirmative action, that they've given the president, whoever it is, carte blanche to do whatever they want under the cloak of official duties, and they're worried about what Donald Trump would do with that carte blanche in a second term. They're worried about Project 2025 and what a president who talks about Black jobs, when we all know he meant that as a derogatory term in an effort to pit Black people against immigrants. They're worried about what a second Trump term would mean, and they're determined not to let it happen. That's what I heard at home. That's what I heard at the Essence Festival. That's what I heard in Michigan when I went to campaign there. That's what I heard in a Black church in New Orleans over the weekend campaigning for the president.
So you think, Representative, that among your constituents and the people that you're developing an understanding of in general, that fear of Trump trumps concerns about Biden's fitness?
I think it's twofold. I think what I'm hearing in my district is what I firmly believe, and that is Joe Biden on his worst day is far better than Donald Trump on his best day. That they understand that Joe Biden has a team supporting him, including Vice President Harris, and a cabinet that are fully behind him, whereas the former president has a former team that is not with him because they understand just how dangerous he is.
The team issue is real, but I do think if you guys are going to play to the team dynamic, you got to introduce the country to who the team is and make sure that they're out there speaking for the president if you want them to see him as a proxy. Last question. Do you have any doubts about President Biden's ability to be at the level he needs to be for 4 more years?
Look, Chris, as someone who just buried 2 family members, I can't predict what I can do in 4 years. But what I do know is the president gets up every day focused on what is in the best interest of the country. And I trust him to do that. I trust him that if he gets to a point where he can't do that, that he will defer to the vice president and he will continue to hold the best interests of the country forward. Now, the vice president has been out on the campaign trail. She gave a very forceful speech at the Essence Festival. She's been out talking about Black economic wealth, what this administration has done, protecting reproductive freedom, and she will continue to do that. And we will make sure that the team, including the Congressional Black Caucus, will be out talking about the very clear contrast between the Biden-Harris administration that is focused on continuing to build an economy that leaves no one behind, protect reproductive freedoms, and address climate change, versus the former president and whoever his team is that he's going to pick that will be yes people that will allow him to get retribution against his enemies.
I would make one tweak. Pull out global warming, climate change, put in the southern border. If you guys don't address the southern border and explain the inaction over the last few years and what's going to happen different going forward, you're going to have big trouble. Congresswoman, appreciate you very much being with us.
We're talking about that too.
Good. That really, I've never seen it matter as much in polling as it does this time around. And I think there's good reason for that.
I would push back that climate change, and if we don't address climate change, it is going to cause more chaos and more migration across this world as people see their homes are unlivable. And climate change is impacting every aspect of our lives, from military readiness to health, and to economic property damage and everything in between. They're all related, and we're talking about all of it.
I hear you. I'm just talking about urgency, and I'm talking about what spikes in the preference polls. And that's all. It's just a comment. You may dismiss it. Many would. But I appreciate you being with me, and you are always invited here to make the case to the audience for your party and your constituents. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. 4 minutes, 30 seconds. Now, very interesting. Very interesting. That's the distilled proposition. Biden on his worst day is better than Trump on his best day. Will that hold? Former presidential candidate Andrew Yang has a prediction about Biden. He's also got a great partner, Geraldo Rivera. How does he read the tea leaves? All right. What's going to happen? Is this much ado about nothing? Former presidential candidate Andrew Yang says, no, it is not much ado about nothing. And he has a prediction about President Biden. So let's bring in co-chair of the Forward Party, Andrew Yang, and the OAO NewsNation correspondent at Largo, Geraldo Rivera. It's good to see you, big brother. Andrew Yang, it's been a minute. I missed you. Thank you for coming in during this important time to join me and Geraldo. What is your prediction, my smart friend?
I think this is Joe Biden's final week as the Democratic nominee. I spoke to a Democratic member who has not gone public, saying that he will be going public pretty soon. And there are a couple dozen swing state members who feel that they will lose their race in November if Joe Biden is at the top of the ticket. So if you can imagine those members of Congress fighting for their very political survival, and Joe Biden's statements have not sat well with them. You have senators led by Mark Warner who privately are saying something very, very similar. So can Joe Biden survive dozens of defections from members of Congress as well as public figures like Reed Hastings, Rob Reiner, Stephen King, Damon Lindelof? The money is drying up. There's a story on CNBC right now saying that bundlers aren't bundling. So there are problems all over the place, and the Democratic Party will see that Joe Biden is untenable as the nominee and will make a move, I believe, in the next 7 days.
Hey, Geraldo, what about the how and the who in this situation? Like, it seems like everybody is kind of going down the road of we don't like Biden, but then what? Who? How?
Well, I think there's only one course away from Joe Biden. And let me just say that I think that so far there's been a rock slide. There hasn't been an avalanche. There's been fewer, as I count them, than 10 Democratic House members who have voiced their absolute opposition to Joe Biden. So I don't think you're there yet. I don't think that you've got the avalanche yet. What you do now has to include Kamala Harris. That's the only way forward for Democrats. All the rest of it, and I appreciate James Carville's colorful scenario with town halls and regional candidates here and there and the rest of it. The fact of the matter is, this is the vice president. Under the 25th Amendment, if the president is disabled, she is the one that assumes that job. This is I think you could argue that President Biden had a 25th Amendment moment when I thought he had a stroke during the debate the other week. But I really do believe that Joe has to firmly embrace Kamala. Otherwise, it's a non-starter. You spoke to the very articulate Congresswoman. I don't know her, but I was listening to her and I said, wow, that's a dose of reality, because remember, Biden was, if it wasn't for South Carolina in 2020, Biden would not be president today. So I listened to that, and I listened to the whole mix of it. Unless the Democrats are willing to embrace Kamala Harris as the next president of the United States, the rest of it is just baloney. It's just hot air.
But Andrew,
it's just, why did I miss it, and so forth.
Andrew, one, do you agree with the assessment? But two, do you believe that Kamala Harris can win the independents?
I think there will be a robust process, and Vice President Harris will be right there front and center. But there are a lot of people who believe that there should be a mini primary that includes some of the swing state governors that might be much more formidable at the top of the ticket. And I do want to give full credit to my friend Dean Phillips, who made a very similar case, if you all remember, 6-7 months ago, when there was much more of an opportunity to have a real primary. And there were a lot of press outlets. This one, not one of them, because Chris, you call it up the middle like always. But there are a lot of people right now that wish they'd paid more attention to Dean Phillips when he said, look, the president's best days are behind him, and we need to have a real conversation and a real competition as to who the Democratic nominee should be.
We had Dean Phillips on all the time, so I appreciate the fair assessment, but he wasn't the guy. And isn't the problem that Kamala Harris isn't the person? And that there are a lot of people who might vote for Biden who won't vote for Kamala Harris and are worried about her being at the top of the ticket.
I think even if it is Vice President Harris, she would benefit from having forums and debates and real opportunities for people to see her in action relative to some of the other leaders in the Democratic Party. I think it's a win for everyone. It's something you say, Chris, like, look, competition is not a bad thing. And the fact is, Democratic Party avoiding competition is what's gotten them into this mess.
Yes, fair. Geraldo, though, but, look, guys like me and you, and Yang, too, by the way, we like competition.
I like Yang.
Because we're okay with the outcome. As long as I'm in there and I'm given a shot, whatever happens, happens. I'm not worried about it. That's not how political parties work. That's how they got into this jam, as Andrew just said. So I don't believe that they're going to let Harris go out there, because she's not going to win in a primary with her. They have people who are better than Kamala Harris.
Nothing is going to change, though, Chris. Absolutely nothing is going to change. The conventions are weeks away now, the nominating conventions.
42
you had
days
delegates elected. You had primaries called off. A lot of reasons. People, in retrospect, will examine the role played by Dr. Jill Biden and the Democratic insiders. Did they protect him? Did they fool the public? Did they con us into believing he was compos mentis? I spent 2 years at Fox News challenging Sean Hannity to prove that he was cognitively disabled. And guess what? It looks like Sean was more correct than I. But yet there's nothing to be done unless you embrace.
Geraldo, I'm with you 100%, but let's be very clear. Them chirping about Biden being brain dead 2-3 years ago was BS. The rate of diminishment is real. That's his concern. I don't have any problem with Biden today as president. He's not a good debater, but I don't think he's not compos mentis. But 3 years from now, The rate of diminishment is the concern. Gentlemen, good points both, and I appreciate it. To be continued. We'll see if Yang is right. Geraldo and I will be right back here next week, Yang. I want you back here next Monday night. Let's see what happened.
Maybe I'll be here. Pass the torch, Joe, please, for the sake of the country.
Andrew Yang, always an intelligent voice, always welcome. Geraldo Rivera, I love you. Let's take a break. When we come back, very different kind of drama. Award-winning actor Alec Baldwin is going to trial. He's going to be prosecuted. The charge is involuntary manslaughter in the shooting death of his cinematographer on the movie set Rust. I have never understood the case except that he's a big name. Baldwin made his first court appearance in the case, scored a win. What happened? Why is this happening? Two better minds break it down. All right. Alec Baldwin, on my podcast back in August, explained his version of how the gun he was holding went off. Do we have it, Dusty?
If you pull the hammer back pretty far, in old Western movies, you'd see someone fan the hammer of the gun. The hammer didn't lock. You pulled it back to an extent where it would fire the bullet without you pulling the trigger.
Now, this is one of the things I never understood. What difference does it make whether he pulled the trigger or fanned the hammer of the revolver and that's why it went off? What reasonable expectation would an actor have that there is a real bullet in a weapon in a movie? But that's what happened. And the 42-year-old cinematographer, Helena Hutchins, was killed. And now Alec Baldwin is on trial. He says he had no idea a live bullet was in the gun. How would he? He says he pulled back the hammer, not the trigger, and it fired. That part, I think, is going to be a subject of the litigation. But does it matter? Does it warrant a charge of criminal involuntary manslaughter? Which means that he was reckless, that he should have known. Alec was in court today for a pretrial hearing. I'm told the defense had a big win. How so? Two better minds. NewsNation legal analyst Sarah Azari, criminal defense attorney Arthur Idella. This is all gravy for me. These are two people who I love both of them. Who wants to do the prosecution side of this? Arthur?
No, I was going to defer to my esteemed colleague.
Okay, so Sarah, help me, and I like the glasses. Help me understand. I don't understand why this case is being brought. What am I missing?
Well, look, Chris, it's being brought because there's a dispute between the standard of care. So what you said in your setup is that how should an actor know? Why would an actor know? If this jury with the prosecution standard of care, which is a universal gun safety rule that no matter who you are, what the scenario is, you are supposed to check the gun. You are not supposed to rely on the words or the check of somebody else. You're supposed to check the gun yourself, and he failed to do that. You're also not supposed to point the gun at somebody. He also did that. So, but the defense, Chris, is coming in with a different standard, a Hollywood standard, the idea that an actor can rely on the safety of props given to him. So there's going to be a dispute between those two theories.
So
there's a live round in the gun, Arthur.
Okay.
I mean, how do you anticipate that?
So here's the first thing. Tomorrow starts jury selection. One of the first questions I ask the jurors, potential jurors, is where do you get your news from? Because you have to look at the person you're representing. And I'm representing someone who, unlike 99.9% of the trials, in this particular case, people know who the defendant is, right? 99.9% of the time, the defendant is a stranger. So I'm going to ask them where they get their news from to make sure there are no big Donald Trump fans there. And why do I say that? Because Alec Baldwin has developed this huge reputation of making fun of Donald Trump. So the first thing you have to do is eliminate some innate prejudice that a human being may have against that particular defendant. Because, Chris, to your opening point, why is an actor who is given a gun by someone who is now doing 18 months in prison, that was her job to make sure it was a cold gun, and then an assistant director confirms it's a cold gun, and I believe he's going to testify on behalf of Alec Baldwin saying, yeah, I told him that the gun was safe.
Well,
what's the win that they got? Oh, wait, hold on, Sarah, hold on 1 second. Well, 1 second. Arthur, what was the win that he got today?
I believe that person is going to be allowed to testify. There's also some document. Alec Baldwin, they're not allowed to say that he was a producer on the movie. They're not allowed to say that he was yelling and screaming at people on the set to hurry up. The judge says that's irrelevant. Compliments to the judge for keeping the evidence here pretty streamlined.
Sarah, what were you going to say?
Yeah, I don't think that's as big a win as we're making it out to be, because it's neither here nor there. I mean, Alec Baldwin should be tried in the capacity of the trigger man, not a producer, not these things that typically we see in a civil lawsuit, not a criminal prosecution. The bigger win, but look, Chris, the bigger win here is the prosecution got the gun into evidence. There was a trombetta motion the defense lost, and they get an expert who's going to testify this gun was functioning perfectly and that the only way that it could have fired was if you pulled the trigger. And then I have a star witness, if I'm Miss Morrissey for the night, I have a star witness who's going to come in and say that he saw Alec Baldwin pull the trigger, which is completely inconsistent with what he said on your podcast and on ABC.
All right,
and
other. That's a problem. That's a problem. But I believe that's a problem. But here's what I still don't have to get. And then, Arthur, I'll let you deal with that. But, Sarah, just give me a quick take, because I'm not feigning stupid on this. I really don't get it. I don't get how you get me to a standard of care. I don't believe that actors check the weapon all the time before they use it. Why would they? What are you checking for? I check a weapon every time I'm about to fire it because I'm using live rounds. Why would they, Sarah?
But that's the whole idea, is that you have to assume the gun is not safe unless you have checked it yourself. This is what an expert's going to testify before this jury.
All right, I get it. But it's not a Hollywood standard. It's a fake standard. It's like we're playing make-believe. But, Arthur, give a quick blowback to what Sarah said.
Real quick, the Hollywood standard, the SAG-AFTRA rule is the actor does not have to check it, number one. Number two, Chris, it doesn't really matter if he pulled the trigger, if he didn't pull the trigger. The real element is there should not have been a live round in there. And who's responsible for that? And Sarah mentioned the term civil lawsuit. If this case is going to trial, it should be in the civil forum, not in a criminal forum. No one deserves, at least Alec Baldwin does not deserve to go to jail for this. Maybe pay some money to that poor young woman who we lost children.
Which they already did.
Right.
Go ahead,
Which
Sarah.
they already did. You're correct.
No, I was just going to say to Arthur's point, I also don't want...
I gotta go. I gotta go. But I appreciate you both. Thank you very, very much. I still think if it weren't Alec Baldwin, we wouldn't be here. We got to get past this problem with prosecuting on the basis of name. Sarah Azari, Arthur Aidala. Perfect. Next.